2008-2009 I only raced 7 rounds, but I had 18 wins. Quite a few sort of problems with engines and things like that, but I still managed to come first in the annual points championship. So 40mm axle in that one and hydraulic brakes, so that was a little bit different to set up, a little bit different to race. The Arrow was particularly heavy, so say the Kart was weighing 68.4 kgs, which was quite a bit heavier than my Vinart. I weighed 86.2, so it's nice to look back on that. I think I used to weigh less than 90 kilograms. For most years the club has a club champs, which is a sort of a standalone event. So I finally was fast enough on the day to win in 2009. Now someone else I was racing against around this time on and off, but he was always fast and also a really nice fella, is Dennis Clark. Still got that same old suit. Eventually they outlawed these suits because it was sort of a soft cotton suit and wasn't skid resistant, didn't meet the sort of international regulations. In the 2009-2010 season I did 6 rounds, only had 2 race wins. Somewhere in there I broke my ankle and I missed the first round. In September I also had missed August, which was probably club champs. In April 2010 Josh and Hannah had a race day on one-day licenses, so that was the first time they'd had an actual proper race day. They'd done a bit of practice. So then in July, with the final round of the championship for the 2009-2010 season, I met Spike Taylor for the first time. He had started racing in June, but I'd missed that round. He was a lot of fun. He used to turn up in his white gumboots often. He's a sort of Masterton man or Carterton, somewhere there. I was racing the FKR chassis because after some practice I'd sort of discovered that it was working a little bit better. The handling was working better. And that's a nice sized little trophy, much easier to fit on a shelf. And that was 2009-2010, came third in the annual points. Daniel Whittington had driven well that season. He had 3 round wins, won the championship, tied on points with Dennis, but once you counted back the number of round wins, Daniel had 3, Dennis had 1. So I had 1 round win in February, beating Jamie, and a couple of seconds, but you know, I was a couple of points behind in the end. But an enjoyable season. So we had an Enduro in August 2010, so the next month after the season had finished, and there were a few open karts. There was a Matt King in a Yamaha Heavy, also Darren Conway in a Yamaha Heavy, and 3 club karts. So there was Jamie Dwan, there was me, and there was Spike. and we were all just driving by ourselves. So you had an hour. We had a couple of heats first. I was racing the Vinart with my number 6 engine. I had a lot of engines by this point, and I was going really well in the actual main event until I made a mistake, went on the grass and then spun and gave the lead away, and I was beaten by Jamie. Bit unfortunate, but I really did enjoy the longer event, just sort of trying to be really consistent, and really quite fun. I enjoyed a lot of enduros over the years. I didn't have enduros every year. I also enjoyed the aspect of having trying to manage good pit stops. So you can see I had a pit for fuel over here, took a minute 49 seconds, and then we had to change a wheel, take a wheel off, put it on the ground, take our hands off, put it back on, and hopefully we did it upright so it didn't fall off. So that was just over 2 minutes. So yeah, that was good.
There it goes.
I was lucky enough at the time to be working with a really good guy, John Davidson, who's my best friend still, I would say, and he was a skateboarder, but he was hurting himself more and more as his knees couldn't take it as he was getting a bit old. So eventually I persuaded him to join in karting with me. He got up to speed really quickly. He'd come up for a few sort of practice drives and things and driven the old vintage kart. John's method of getting up to speed was basically to go way over the limit, spin off, crash. He crashed backwards into the marshal post up at the top of the track, bent the axle and hurt himself and things like that, but he drove over the limit and then found that limit really quickly. So he very quickly, really after not too many rounds, was really competitive with me when we're both the same sort of weight, and he was racing in the FKR. November of 2010 was John's first race day, just on a one-day license initially, and it was also Hannah and Josh's second race day, so they raced on a one-day license as well. So that was quite fun. I was essentially running 4 karts. I was in the Vinart with mechanical help from John particularly, but that was pretty intense. So my best time was a 41.457. John did a 41.224. Josh did a 41.180. He was a bit underweight apparently though, and Dennis was on a 41.5, so he wasn't super fast, and had a 42.287. So we had a lot of really fun battling in there. There was also Spike as well as Dennis joining in, and we were racing in a big field of sort of lots of seniors in together. And new tender tyres came in January 2011, so we had to buy new MG tyres. I was in the FKR chassis, John wasn't racing, and I'd found it was more consistent when I'd gone out testing with the tyres. I was now weighing 159.8 kilograms, racing against Dennis, who was at 145, and also racing against Craig Wagner. I did have a couple of race wins. Dennis had 3, so I was second for the day. Other class times similar on MGs to Bridgestones. I'm approximately 1.7 seconds quicker than I was in November, mostly due to the tyres, and I was 0.7 of a second quicker than 1 year ago. So the new tyres really do make a huge difference. March, I was in the Vinart. My weight was 159. John was, I think, slightly lighter in the FKR. And then Ben, my son-in-law, soon to be, started racing with us. So he raced for pretty much a year, from March 2011 through to January 2012. So it was me and John and Ben as regular club class runners for most rounds, and we were racing against Dennis and Spike and Craig Wagner. And for this round in March, Jeremy came and did a one-day license, and he was fast. He was on new MG tyres, which you know, helped him to go fast, and he obviously weighed a lot less than us, so he was right down on the 145 kg limit. So it was really fun though. It was a big field. It's really good to have so many Yamahas out there. So my best time was a 39.232. John's was a 39.014. He was 3 kgs lighter than me. Ben was a 40.532, not bad on his first race day, and he was weighing in at 154 kgs. Jeremy, who as I said was down at the 145, did a 38.468, and Dennis, same weight, did a 38.561. I had a good race day in April where I managed to win 4 races, and Spike won 1. John and Ben were racing with us, and Tim Green had his first race day. In March, Peter Whittington, Daniel's father, had given me the kart that Daniel had raced, the Mike Wilson kart, and he thought I might have a use for it because they weren't using it. Initially he was giving it to me as a loan, and then I've got the email here actually, so he said if you had a use then you're welcome to it. It's better to be used than just sitting there. Could be on loan type arrangement, which could then be made permanent at some stage in the future once Daniel's made up his mind. So when it came to the club champs in May 2011, I thought, well, I'll try this kart out properly, and it was quite a heavy kart, so it was weighing 171 kilograms. I think it had quite a heavy seat on it, and it was, I think, just a thicker tubed sort of chassis. But I managed to finish second. I did have 1 race win, and Spike won. Dennis 3rd, John 4th, Hayden Williams 5th, 6th was Ben in the Arrow, and then 7th Craig Wagner. Ben didn't race in June because it was almost time for him to marry Hannah. I raced the Vinart and John in the FKR again. We had some really good battles. Also starting racing was Mark Collis, someone we got on really well with and raced against for a few years. Really great guy. Spike was racing still, and Brad Roberts as well. And this was also the day that John had his first race win. So in Heat 3 he got a 48.192, I had 48.290, so this was in the wet. We had a really good close battle. I finished 0.459 seconds behind.